That was the thing that just blew me away, that way they went through all those brands. Like that was damn good marketing on their behalf. My hat is off to Nokia and Motorola, because both of them, in between.
Were they non-Masonic?
Sony dabbled, but it just went camera and, we don't want to get into the phone race. So these two are just way better than us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did a little thing.
Sony was media.
All those sorts of ones.
Sony was never really...
The weird brand name buddy ones came in, but the Nokia was always the most solid, and the battery was the easiest one to replace. All hail the Pixels. Those were the days, mate.
Were they?
Well, they were. It was simpler.
They were days.
They were simpler days.
Wasn't
this complex colour pornography being thrown at you 24/7,
or something like that?
No, it was a far easier day, You wanted your pornography, you went to a magazine.
That's going a fair way
back. Or a
back.
video. Yeah, or a video.
Well, I don't recall Nokia.
Photos if you found the special stash.
Nokia and needing to get a magazine for pornography are not synonymous. Like that, by the time...
No.
By the time you got a Nokia, you're past magazines.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you were into like some kind of...
You're one of those wondering in the 1-800, I'm really, looking for someone special to talk to.
Yeah. The special people.
That's it. Love it, caring.
But I don't think...
Willing to take your credit card at a very minimal price.
By the time you had like a decent, a handheld Nokia, it wasn't quite internet, but Usenet and everything was happening. And it was. And it allowed you to get your laptop into that base, BBS connection bullshit as well if you wanted. And there were libraries of things forming.
The good old days, mate. It's nostalgia. I get a little bit of a shiver every time we talk about it,
Well, I don't really talk about it, but I'm hearing you want to. I was talking about something completely different. But you started talking about mobile phones and Nokia, but and reminisce. I'm here
it's all good.
I'm here for reminiscing.
We'll go around in sort of a weird way to get there.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I think
makes it much harder for the algorithm to figure it out.
T9 was not, I mean, it was fast for the time. I mean, no, it's not faster than, I don't use predictive text, to be honest. I find it to be too tedious to use.
Oh, no, it'll pop up.
I hate it on my computer. Like, there's areas where, especially in email, like things will just, did you? No, I definitely didn't mean, I particularly meant that sequence of letters. Please stop changing my sequence of letters.
I know what I'm doing.
Absolutely required. To some other rat. Like, what?
Help disabled. Yeah, turn it off.
So,
I'm all helping.
I don't know. I know that I spent less time on a phone, but I don't know that I spent less time on a computer necessarily. I don't, like, if it came down to how much of my day was in front of a screen before an iPhone, it's not a lot more now. It is more, because I might
Well, it's still
because I'd use it on a bus.
Yeah, but you had to be more creative, To draw a dong, it was like, the number 8, several equal signs, and then the capital D with a couple of titles after it.
Depending on how the status, depending on the status of the dong, as you say.
True.
It would depend on the accoutrements. So it's either been had. I didn't find SMS really. It was good. You know what it was good for?
It didn't pervade the message well enough.
Well, I used it for haiku. Like, I actually used the format really effectively. I felt and I had a little following.
Efficient messaging. That's
a
right.
little forced following, but I don't know. I asked people did subscribe to it, and I would send out like usually a daily SMS with a haiku.
Group chat. To, a group of friends that appreciated the art.
Yeah, I had a mailing list. Some people, just people. It was people. I didn't communicate with some of them. Some of them I did. They were just part of the message. It was the beginning. It was like a Substack. Right. Basically, it was a Substack. It was an SMS stack.
Exactly.
And then there was a transition point after the SMS stack, and I used that for a couple of years. And I had like a few, and you'd sort of build them in these groups, and then you just kind of have to remember if you had to rebuild a group, it was very tedious. And I got to the Motorola. What happened though was like there was a transition point where, and it lasted a while. There was actually a real pain point. People talk about the pain point of like Android and the green bubble and this and that, and not RCS. And however, it's not a new one. Like in the days of SMS and MMS. And so I had like I of course had when I could, I got a Razor and I activated all the MMS features, and I had the browser running on my Motorola.
They were
Razor.
very effective. Yeah,
it was pretty well. It was rough as man, but
what it needed to do.
Yeah, you did it, and very basic things. Like basically, you could I had my email on there and a few kind of weather and a few other kind of little services. But I started to take photos on the Razor.
Just for information,
because it had a good camera phone at the days, and even did little videos. And then you could MMS videos, those little videos.
Yeah, I know. That was good. I used to enjoy that. Yeah.
But that broke shit because people didn't have MMS, or they had older phones that accepted it but then scrambled it. And they're like, you just send me a message which just goes on and on, like there's 100 messages, and people started like freaking out, and I had to separate people into groups. I had like the SMS
just to push it through the small MMS.
So what I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure that was a simpler day.
Perhaps a little bit, you know.
It was actually...
Well, every
it was
era is a
fucking
learning
challenging day.
process, man. It was every era is a learning process, isn't it?
And you could go now, like on Insta or something like that, and just tag shit up.
Max frustration.
And put your haiku up there, and then, 100 people see it maybe. And they don't have to be...
Far more effective as a delivery system, so.
Well, less more universal. Like if you have the Instagram app, for example, then you'll be able to see it. You know, your phone
pops up.
Yeah, it'll know your phone. Instagram will deal with it for me. Like, and I guess that's the thing. It's like so that no, it's actually they were not. That was not a fun day, man. That was hard. Remember trying to like type
infancy of the
and when you could MMS,
internet,
so you could write longer. Well, you could so basically write long SMSs essentially, and trying to write those on like a Nokia or something like that on the small screen, and even on the Motorola.
It was a challenge, man.
Flips, man. Those razors.
That's why I always used to compress. Use the number language as well.